You come home from work like any other day. You set down your keys, maybe you pour a glass of water, and then you see a message, or a strange look in her eyes, or maybe she simply tells you the truth. And in that moment, something breaks. Not just your relationship, not just your trust, but your sense of reality, of who you are and what your life has been. Betrayal isn't just about someone else's actions. It's about the earthquake that ripples through your soul, the silence that follows, the questions with no answers. Was it me? Was it ever real? For many men, especially in their 40s or 50s, this kind of heartbreak hits harder than anyone talks about, because we were taught to be the strong ones, the providers, the ones who deal with it. But what if you're not supposed to just deal with it? What if you're allowed to feel this, to grieve, not just the woman, but the version of you who believed love would be enough? If you've been through it or are still in it, this video is for you, because healing begins when we stop pretending we're not hurting. Let's take this one gentle step at a time. The psychological impact. What betrayal really does to a man. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rewires how you see the world and how you see yourself. When a man is betrayed by someone he loves, it doesn't just break his heart, it breaks his identity. From a psychological perspective, betrayal trauma impacts a man's nervous system, his belief in safety, and his sense of personal worth. You might not talk about it, most men don't. But deep down, something shifts. The man who once believed he could trust now questions everything. Even in everyday moments, at work, with friends, alone in the car, there's a quiet ache, a sense of failure that doesn't belong to him, but still sticks like second skin. Take James, 47. He found out his wife had been unfaithful after 18 years of marriage. He didn't scream. He didn't even cry. Instead, he went numb. He still got up the next day, went to work, picked up groceries, but inside, it felt like someone had taken a hammer to the foundation of his life. He told himself, "I should have seen the signs." He asked, "What did I do wrong?" He started doubting every choice, his body, his job, his worth as a man. And slowly he stopped smiling. He isolated, and the worst part, no one noticed, because on the outside, he looked fine. According to Dr. Jennifer Fried's research on betrayal trauma, being betrayed by someone you rely on, especially emotionally, activates the same brain areas associated with physical pain. In men, this trauma is often buried under years of emotional suppression, leading to long-term effects like anxiety, emotional numbness, depression, and even physiological symptoms like chronic fatigue or insomnia. Why? Because betrayal isn't just a breakup. It's a break in attachment, the emotional glue that gives us a sense of safety. If this feels familiar, pause for a moment. You're not weak. You're wounded. And wounds need tending, not hiding. So if betrayal hits this deep, how do you even begin to climb out? What's the first brick to rebuild something that feels so broken? In the next part, we'll talk about that quiet turning point, when a man starts to reclaim his self-worth after betrayal. Rebuilding the self, the first step back to wholeness healing, doesn't start with a big leap. It starts with a quiet moment, when you choose to stop abandoning yourself. After betrayal, many men look outward for answers. What went wrong? Who to blame? But the real shift begins when you look inward. The first step in healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about reconnecting with yourself, especially the parts you silenced to survive. Here's the thing most people don't say. Betrayal isn't just about what someone did to you. It's about what it made you do to yourself. The self-doubt, the shame, the way you stopped trusting your own instincts. So healing? It's not about moving on. It's about coming home to the version of you that still believes in dignity, in worth, in love that doesn't cost your soul. Let's go back to James. After months of numbing himself with work and silence, he hit a quiet breaking point. One morning, brushing his teeth, he looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. That day, instead of pushing through like usual, he did something radical. He called in sick. He went to a nearby lake, no phone, no distractions, and sat. He cried, for the first time in years. And then he wrote one sentence in a notebook. "I didn't deserve what happened, but I deserve what comes next." That moment didn't fix everything, but it was the first honest contact with his real self, the part that still wanted to live, not just survive. According to internal family systems IFS therapy, trauma creates protector parts that shield us from pain, like shutting down, avoiding emotion, or overworking. But healing begins when we make space for the exiled parts, the wounded self that holds grief, confusion, and longing. Reintegration doesn't require analysis. It requires presence. Even just 10 minutes a day, journaling, breathing, or sitting with emotion without judging it can begin the process of neural repair. That's the work. Not solving the pain, but sitting with it until it softens. If you've never let yourself feel it, maybe now is the time to try. Just for 10 minutes. Just for you. But as you begin to rebuild, there's a next challenge that many men quietly struggle with: learning to trust again. Yourself, others, and the idea that love is still possible. Let's talk about that next. Learning to trust again, a new relationship with self and others. When betrayal shatters you, it doesn't just break trust in them. It breaks the trust you had in yourself. Healing from betrayal isn't only about letting go of the past. It's about rebuilding something deeper. The belief that you can trust your own judgment again, and eventually, that it's safe to let others in. After being hurt by someone you loved, even the smallest signs of closeness can feel dangerous. You second-guess yourself. Why didn't I see it coming? Was I not enough? How do I know this won't happen again? But trust isn't something you give away. It's something you rebuild inside, piece by piece. Let's come back to James. Months into his healing, he met someone new, Anna. She was kind, respectful, not pushy. But even during the simplest moments, a compliment, a question about his past, James would freeze. His instinct wasn't to open up, it was to protect. One night, after Anna asked about his ex, James panicked and pulled away for days. Then he realized something. He wasn't afraid of her. He was afraid of his own vulnerability. So he started small. He told her, "I'm learning how to be honest without thinking it'll be used against me." That honesty didn't scare her away. It drew her closer. Neuroscience shows that betrayal activates the brain's threat system. Your amygdala, your emotional alarm center, stays on high alert, even when you're no longer in danger. Over time, consistent, safe relationships, including with yourself, help regulate the nervous system. This is what's known in polyvagal theory as co-regulation. Your nervous system starts to calm when it feels consistently seen, heard, and not judged. But here's the deeper truth. Before you trust someone else again, you need to rebuild inner safety. That means learning to hear your intuition, not your fear. It means checking in with yourself instead of overriding your gut. You don't have to rush to trust others. But today, can you trust one emotion, one instinct, one truth? And maybe now, as you learn to live more honestly, the final piece isn't about anyone else. It's about coming home to yourself after all this time. Let's go there next. Coming home to yourself. What if healing wasn't about going back to who you were, but about meeting the version of you that's been waiting all along? The deepest healing after betrayal isn't about forgetting the past. It's about reconnecting with the part of you that you silenced to survive. That voice that whispered, "You deserve better," even when you ignored it. That inner truth that never stopped believing in love, even after it was shattered. When someone you trusted betrays you, they don't just leave you with pain, they leave you with questions. And often, the hardest one is, who am I now? You might not know how to start over. But here's something I've seen again and again. Pain has a strange way of pulling you back to your essence. It strips away the noise, it humbles you. And sometimes when you're sitting in the silence of heartbreak, you hear your own voice again, for the first time in years. Months after his breakup, James sat alone at a beach he used to visit with his ex. But this time, he wasn't grieving her. He was grieving the parts of himself he had abandoned in the relationship, his creativity, his sense of humor, his boundaries. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and whispered, "I'm still here." Not healed, not fixed, but whole in a different way. You don't need closure from them, you need a beginning with yourself. If this spoke to something deep inside you, you're not alone. There's more to explore about trust, boundaries, and rebuilding after heartbreak. You can start here with the next video. You're not weak, you were betrayed.